Welcome to the 2020 Girls Soccer Parent Information Video or Meeting. Coach Downing, Coach LeVos. At this point in time, we are the coaching staff for the girls program. We do currently have an opening for a third coach, so if you are available and interested and feel qualified to help us out at the high school level, check out the district site and look for the posting as soon as it gets up, and feel free to apply. This is definitely a new experience. We've had some laughs already in getting ready and trying to accomplish this virtual meeting. I think both of us have wonderful faces for radio, but here we are. Some things that we really encourage you to be aware of with all of the changes that are undoubtedly going to be taking place this season. Please be aware of the team's website, ZimmermanSoccerClub.org. All of the information that we're going to go over today will be posted there. There will be links to find answers to just about any question you may have, including schedules and changes that are going to take place. Some of that stuff we'll be talking about in a few minutes. Another great place to check for scheduling information is the GraniteRidgeConference.org. On that site, you can link up to the Zimmerman school schedule and check game times and locations, and they will be updated very, very current as to situations, if it's a weather postponement or a delay or whatever. All that information will be first placed on the Granite Ridge Conference site. So GraniteRidgeConference.org for game schedules. We've established a parent remind text service that we encourage you to subscribe to. It's a free texting app. It's separate from the player remind because we send a lot of information out to the players regarding what color shirt to bring to practice that day, or things like that may not necessarily be vitally important for parents to know and have it interrupting your day or whatever you're doing by getting text messages that may sometimes be somewhat annoying because the information doesn't necessarily really pertain to the parents. So the parent remind, the instructions for joining that will also be on the ZimmermanSoccerClub.org website. To join, you will text 81010. The message will be at GBGCH4. And don't worry about getting that written down, because again, it will be on the website at ZimmermanSoccerClub.org. So that's the thing I've repeated the most, and that's probably the most important thing we've covered so far. ZimmermanSoccerClub.org. That's where you're going to want to go for answers to many of the questions that I'm sure you're going to have this year especially. You're on.
All right, so for this year and every year up until this point, we've got a very succinct mission and philosophy that really mirrors with what ISD 728 is as well, is that all people have value. Especially during what we're going through right now, it's really important to value individuals, respect differences, strengths of not only players but parents and other teams that we're going to play against, especially communities like our own here in Zimmerman, as well as other communities we are going to go into. It's also important that we really focus on that people thrive when they feel connected, supported, and affirmed. So it's really a goal of ours to build strong relationships with not only our players, but our parents. This year it might look a little bit different because, well, you gotta stay 6 feet apart from everybody, and you gotta have a mask. So, and we know having a mask on is not always the best, even though we're an outdoor sport, but we're gonna do our best to follow MDH rules and the rules put up by the high school league as well as our own district. So everybody can learn. The learning curve is gonna be big this year. So bear with us when we get to that, and really, have an outward sense of flexibility. Things are literally going to change probably by the hour on some days. So be open to that, be considerate of that, and we're going to try and help you as parents get through this as best as we can as coaches. The last couple things here, we're really focusing on inspiring, empowering our athletes to not only have better lives in the future, but also have conversations with parents and coaches so that they can really take ownership of their own game as well as their individual and personal growth. The last kind of thing that is on the district's list that I want to make mention of is that change is often an opportunity for growth. And if change is going to happen, it's happening now. So we're going to do everything we possibly can to make that a smooth transition for parents, players, and fans of all varieties. Another thing that we're really focusing on is that each player must commit to achieving the highest standards within their ability, not only on the field, but in the classroom and in the community. This year, with whatever model we go back to in the classroom this year, if it's distance or if it's hybrid or we're back face to face, you're a student athlete first. The student is the most important. The athlete portion will come second. And oftentimes, if you're taking care of the student portion, the athlete portion will take care of itself. The team has continually existed to develop winners, not only on the athletic field, but also in the classroom. Through that type of recognition, we're really focusing on extracurricular activities playing a large role in developing well-rounded student athletes, both socially and emotionally. A lot of great attention is going to be focused in on nurturing attitudes and skills in which support and exemplify these core values that have been previously mentioned. Doing so, these leadership qualities, and healthy habits, ethical behaviors, positive self-image, teamwork, and goal setting will be learned. These traits are going to promote winning both on and off the field now and well into your daughter's futures.
And so this year, this philosophy may evolve to be even bigger and more important. Again, with one of the changes that took place with fall sports, we very well may see several new players who are coming to play soccer for the first time. And those core values are going to guide us and lead us in how we accept and make room for and create roles for everyone that wants to be part of this program. It's certainly not our desire to eliminate or cut anybody, but sometimes if the role that is available for that person isn't something that person or their family want to be a part of, then that decision sometimes may be the best, is that you move on and find something else to do with that time. So being part of an extracurricular activity carries some responsibility to make sure you've taken care of your business in regards to being eligible to participate. From the student handbook, in order to participate on a Zimmerman High School athletic team or in any activity, the participant must have satisfied all of the scholastic eligibility requirements prior to participating. Those general requirements are a GPA, a cumulative GPA of 2.0 or higher, and an accumulation of enough credits to be making satisfactory progress toward graduation, that thing you do after 4 years, graduation prior to the beginning of the designated semester. For any player that's at the beginning 9th grade or younger, you technically don't have a grade point average yet. So that's something that you kind of get a pass on that one. But we will be paying attention and making sure that you're getting off to a good start, especially in that 9th grade year. It's a whole lot easier to fall behind than it is to catch up. So we want to make sure we do everything we can do as coaches and as a program to keep our players on track where they need to be and achieving at their highest ability. If things go awry and a student athlete has a GPA below the district standard, that student athlete will be placed on an academic watch by administration. While on academic watch, participation will be limited in our program. When they improve their academic standing to no longer needing to be on academic watch, they may be considered for full participation once again. So that addresses some of the expectations that we have in regards to our academic work. And then we have expectations just as human beings as well. The primary function of a student athlete is to attain the highest level of learning possible. They're students first. And that requires paying real strict attention and devoting and committing yourself to the rigorous study that's required to get through the high school program. Now, we all just experienced distance learning last spring, and someone might question the rigor of that. That was a brand new thing for everybody that was involved in doing it, and I can assure you, if we experience an unfortunate event and we go back to distance learning this fall, the rigor will be much higher than it was last spring. So, young ladies, please don't have in your head that you're just going to coast through this and it's going to be super easy. The standards and the expectations through distance learning, if it has to come to that this fall, will be much higher, and it's going to require you to be more attentive and more engaged in taking care of the things that you need to take care of. If you're going to choose to participate in extracurricular activities, the things that you're going to learn is diversified to include many lessons that aren't part of a classroom workload. Success comes to us much easier if we practice the little Thunder Way, the posters that are all over our school. Be ready, be responsible, be respectful. Another piece that we've added to that as a school a couple of years ago is what we've called the R factor, with the little equation, E plus R equals O. Every day our lives incorporate many, many different events. Many of those events we have no control over. But what we do control is the R, our response to the event that we're now confronted with. And what our R will produce is the O, the outcome. If we want favorable outcomes, we need to be really, really attentive to our response to every event we confront throughout our day. This COVID virus is a great example of that. I don't think any of us would ever have any desire to be experiencing what we're experiencing at this point in our life. But how we respond to that is going to determine how we come through it on the other side. So I'm very grateful and thankful that we have the opportunity to have some kind of a soccer season. There are going to be some modifications that we aren't even clear on what it's all going to look like. We are going to play less than our normal 16 games. We're not exactly sure how many. There's questions unanswered yet regarding transportation and issues of that nature. It's all being worked on. As a matter of fact, as we're recording this meeting for you, Mr. Hillier is in meetings that are going through many of those unanswered questions. So in a few days, hopefully there'll be some more answers, and we will certainly make those answers available. And of course, we'll post them at zimmermansoccerclub.org. So we want you to go back and visit that website anytime you have a question. Maybe it just got answered, and we can put it out there. One thing that hasn't changed, and maybe it's even needs to be brought more heightened and more awareness. The social media tool can be a really, really great thing, but it can also be a real pitfall, especially for young folks. Everything that you do on the internet is public. We're recording this meeting for our players and our parents, but people in Taiwan can find the link and get to it and see this meeting. There's no private on the internet. Once you post something out there for people to see, everybody can figure out a way to get access to it and see it. When you have the opportunity to speak to someone, if you have questions, speak to them face to face first, if that's an opportunity. Now, in this day and age, we've kind of been encouraged not to do that. So we need to make sure that we are using the social media tool in a manner that represents who we are in person. It sometimes can be tempting and easy to hide behind a keyboard, so to speak. But if you wouldn't want to have that conversation with someone in person, then you probably shouldn't be having it through social media. Your audience through social media is much larger than a one-to-one conversation. So you need to be aware of that. If other people are posting stuff on social media and you're commenting on it, or you're liking it, or you're retweeting it, or sharing it, etc., what you're doing is taking a stand on that issue. So you need to be really careful on how you decide to respond to that social media event. Again, it comes back to that R factor. It comes into every little part of our life. You may send a message to a friend and it's supposed to be funny or it's supposed to be sarcastic. Someone else may get that message and not take it the way you intended it to be. So the internet can be very brutal because it doesn't share our feelings, and our humor sometimes doesn't come across the way it would in person. So just be really, really careful on what you're doing with the internet. The 3 words really: stop and think. Just before you do something on the internet, stop and think. You want to run with rolls?
So this season's going to look very, very different, especially with the movement of volleyball, sports like volleyball and football, to kind of a 4th season or a spring season, and adjusting things. Roles are going to be different this year, not only as parents, but for players and coaches as well. There's a likelihood we might have a lot more players coming out for the team this year. So there's not going to be any kind of promises or guarantees for any player to have placement or a specific position from any season to season, but more so, even more than ever, this season. Player evaluations. As coaches, we're going to be looking at how players function in practice, how they function in team meetings, how they work during study sessions, what their class load is doing, what their grades are doing, and it's all going to impact play, especially when we've got somebody who's on a bubble between a JV team or a varsity team or a starting spot and somebody coming off the bench. Players must be able to complete 7 full practices before expecting to participate in a game. If you can't make it through practice, you're not going to be able to compete at a game level. And we're really going to put a heightened sense of adequately preparing our players to be game ready. This is a season where every game is going to count. Every game that we get to play is special and is kind of a gift for us, more so than other years. But we need to be able to perform when we need to be able to perform, and we need to be able to perform. That words are hard.
Do that. Perform.
Yeah, perform at the absolute highest level we can. So the evaluation process can only take place by the coaching staff. It can be highlighted, potentially by other players saying, hey, I really think so-and-so is doing a lot more. They've trained a lot harder over the summer. They're coming in. They're at a much higher level. Maybe you take a look at it, or take a look at them for my position, because I think they might be a better fit. And what that demonstrates is a really, really good teammate, somebody who's looking out for the betterment of the team as a whole. Coaches, as right now it's just the 2 of us, as mentioned before. So both Coach Downing and myself, we're going to really be focusing and instructing players through a variety of different drills, a variety of repetitions, and it's looking at it. Are they working harder all the way through? Are they staying the same, or are they starting to stagnate and really kind of decrease in their overall performance? Another thing to focus on that we're going to look at is a varsity player from previous seasons is not promised a varsity position. Like we mentioned before, that's going to be really important this season. this is a different year, and for a lot of different reasons, people haven't been training. So we have to be okay with understanding that the season that you had last year is not going to be the season you're going to have this year. There weren't the opportunities to necessarily be training. Clubs didn't play as much as they have in previous seasons. And it's really going to be a decision that's going to be made those first few weeks of practice to see where we are. And we're going to put the best team that we can together out on the field. Regardless of who that individual is, what they've played like in past seasons, we can't see into the future. We don't know what's going to happen from game to game, but we're going to put the best team we can out on the field based off of what we see in practice. So there's a real emphasis to really put everything that you can forward every practice. Yeah. So a little thing that we are going to kind of put a little asterisk by, and we're going to kind of mention briefly here, is captainship.
This one has brought up questioning for the last few years because we haven't specifically named captains to carry through for the whole year. And this wasn't something that I invented on my own accord. Through some of my graduate work, it was something that I discovered was kind of a trend, and the research behind it seemed to support the notion of recognizing players throughout the year with a captaincy. In soccer, the sport of soccer kind of lends itself pretty well to that because we typically have a couple of games a week, and the captains traditionally would wear a captain armband, or well, it has to be an armband by the rules now. And it was a great way for the coach to be able to recognize performance or effort, whether it's in practice or on the competition pitch, and award that seed to a variety of players throughout the course of the season. And I think there was some confusion in that because I think some people feel that not naming a captain deprives people of the opportunity to be leaders. And what the research found is just the opposite of that. When we don't exclude anyone from being a leader, then everyone becomes a leader or has the opportunity to develop leadership skills. And a lot of those leadership traits are things that typically would fall onto the named captain. In my almost 4 decades of coaching experience, when we would allow teams, players to vote for captains, there were 2 people who would always rise to become captains. One would be the best player on the team, and the other would be the most popular person on the team. And being a highly skilled individual does not automatically make you a good leader. And being an extremely popular individual does not automatically make you a big leader. So we intend to be intentful at driving forward leadership skills and traits and teaching those things on a daily basis, many times just through modeling and by example. Sometimes we get frustrated or discouraged or upset with a player or a group of players, or somebody's goofing off, not doing what they're supposed to be doing during a drill. And we don't just start throwing things at them and yell at them or whatever. So it comes back to our as leaders